All right guys, welcome back to Mr. Post Frame. This is the Solo Barndo Build, and on today's video we're going to be covering truss prep. So I'm putting on some overhang jacks, I'm prepping all of my purlins, I'm going to show you how to do that, and we're going to get ready to put these things up. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Alright guys, sorry it's windy, but in this video, I'm gonna talk about the overhang jack. So when I order my trusses, I personally always order my trusses the width of the building. So if I have a 48-foot wide building, that is girt to girt, outside of girt to outside of girt, I order my trusses 48 feet. Then I will use overhang jacks to acquire my overhang. The reason I do that is because I find that a lot of truss companies will screw up the overhang, and you'll end up, because if you're using 2x4 purlins on edge, they don't always account that those purlins are going to stick up and they do your overhang wrong, and then you would essentially end up with like a huge fascia, like a 8-10 inch fascia, which I don't want. So this particular building, I want an 18-inch overhang. So the couple things you need to know: we have a 612 roof pitch, so I'll take a 2x4, cut a 612 pitch on it, I screw a little block on it to act like a fascia board, and then what you need to do is you need to make sure that that is 18 inches out from the edge of your truss. So I usually start out with like a 4-foot board, get this set where I want it, and then I will mark the end so then I can get this screwed in place. Now, something to think about when you're doing purlins on edge and you're using the overhang jack, your first purlin, which is right here, is going to get hangered here because it's not going to be able to go all the way through. It's going to have to sit flush with this, so you can either hanger it or toe screw it. I like to use an overmount bracket with a hanger on each side. Then you can drop that first purlin in right here. The second thing you got to figure out is your layout if you're using plywood. So I will line up with the edge of my fascia board, and then I'll find out where 48 is. And what I like to do is, so that's that mark right there is the bottom side of my 4-foot purlin, and then my first purlin I will put below that line. That way, when I'm staggering my plywood on my roof, I know that I'm not going to go over a 4-foot piece. So my first one will be a full piece, and then my second one will be half of a sheet. That way, I have 2 pieces that are going to be at least 48 inches. Hopefully that makes sense. But then I pull 2 foot on center from the first purlin and mark my truss out all the way up. And then the only other thing to think about is the size of ridge cap you want. I use a 16-inch ridge. And so with a 16-inch ridge, the bottom side of my top purlin is going to be 6.5 inches. That way, when I run my screws through my ridge cap, they will go in or through the plywood and into the ridge. The next thing I will also do on this top purlin is I will butt them together and put like a 2-foot splice along them. That way the entire ridge goes into a purlin. So now that I've made a template here, I can mass produce these overhang jacks. I know exactly how far up they need to go, so I can measure up from the edge of my truss, make a mark, and then it's really quick and easy to put these on. So now I can lay out and mark my purlins. And so I will show you that. How do I lay out and mark my purlins? I do this all from the ground with very little use of a tape measure. First thing you need to know is the overhang cleat. Again, I have an 18-inch overhang on my sides in this building. So my end bays are gonna get a 20-foot purlin. That allows me to get my overhang and then have my 1-foot overlap on the next set. So I'm gonna mark 16.5 inches because when I add my fascia board, that's gonna give me another 1.5 inches, which would be 18 inches. And then I'm gonna mark 18 inches. The 18-inch mark is gonna line up with the edge of the post. If I already have my girts on, then I would line the edge of my outside edge of my girt with 16.5. And that'll make more sense when we go over here and lay this out. So that's step one, is mark those marks on the end of your purlin. All right, guys, so I laid my purlin at the bottom of my columns. That 18-inch mark is at the edge of the column. This is gonna actually get cut off, this right here. I just haven't done it yet. So there'll be a girt, and then that will be the start of my 16.5 inches. So I lined, that's why I mark 18 if I don't have this board on. And then my fascia board will make 18. Now, all I have to do is go along. I know my truss is gonna set in the middle of this column up top. So I make my marks, put an X. That's where the truss is gonna be. Go to my next column, make a mark, put next, and then measure, make sure I have a 1-foot overhang, and I cut this excess off. Now, I can take my 18-foot 2x4, give it a 1-foot overhang, mark where the truss is, mark where the truss is, mark what the truss is. And I can do that all the way down, and I can make templates for all my purlins, and then I can mass produce them. This works really good because if you're not at exactly 8 foot on center, these will work perfect and your trusses will be perfectly straight up and down. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay out my other end purlin, get that marked, and then we can do these middle ones. And then I'm gonna mass produce all of these. So guys, that's a quick, easy way to mark and mass produce your purlins so you have them all ready for when you start putting up your trusses, and get them all pre-marked, and it goes nice, quick, and easy. All right, guys, so I have all these marked. Truss will sit all the way down. So now I can mass produce these. All right, so I have all of my purlins laid out here for this bay. So I want to make sure they're all nice and straight. Make sure they're running square, and then I use a board and screw it in along here to multiple purlins. Butt it off. Now I can go down and match my measurement that I have on this purlin. This is my template on that side, and then I can either snap lines or use a straight edge. right, so you can see, probably took me about 5 to 8 minutes to set all these purlins up. It took me 5 minutes to mark them, and they're all made. I'm just gonna cut that extra off the end and set them over to the side. So it's pretty quick. If I actually had my generator and my big saw, I could just run my saw through and cut all those at once, but I don't want to monkey around getting it out, so I'm just gonna cut them as I go here. All right, so I'm showing you, you can do these flat too. Same thing, you just can't do as many. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap on today's video. Hopefully you guys found this useful. Couple things, if you guys want to design a barndominium, you can reach out to us through Back 40 Buildings. That's our design company. We do stick frame, post frame, steel frame. We have a great team. We can help you design your dream, get that going for you. Also, for you guys that want to self-build or self-GC, check out our patron group. It's a group for self-builders and people that want to kind of oversee their project. You get to ask me questions. We do lives. We bring on special guests, but go ahead and check that out. As always, we appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, share us with your friends, and we will catch you on the next video.